Hi, everyone. We are going to get started in about a minute or so. We'll just give people a chance to log in. Thank you for your patience. If you would like, it would be really good if you could jump into the chat function and let us know which degree you've applied for or are interested in starting this year. I almost said next year, but I had to stop myself. So let us know what degree it is. We're just really curious to see where everyone's from and what everyone's interested in. So yeah, we'll start in about another minute or so, and yeah, jump in the chat and let us know what you're planning on studying in 2022, which is this year. Oh, we've got a couple of ags. Brilliant, brilliant. Space science, biomed. It's a nice variety. Animal science, cool. Our first Roseworthy degree. Animal behavior, vet, wildlife, vet tech, animal science, brilliant. It's a nice diverse group. Okay, cool. It's a lot of biological and animal focus in here. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, viticulture. Excellent. Good choice. You're the one to become friends with, I think. I didn't say. All right. Professional face on. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. My name is Ari. I work in the Faculty of Sciences. And I'm joined today by a real life current university student. Her name's Megan. Megan, please feel free to say hello. Oh, there we go. Yep.
Hello.
Inspired. Words of wisdom.
I try.
So we are going to be going through a bit of an overview of what's coming up for you in the next few weeks, including things like accepting your offer if you're one of the students who'll be getting their offer in January, going through a bit of an overview of the enrollment process and what to expect in that transition from being a high school student all the way through to your first few weeks of being a university student. We're really glad to have Megan here today because she can provide that student perspective, and she actually spends some time supporting current students as well. And you might even see her in the science office helping out here and there, which is really great. A little bit of housekeeping to get us started. So first and foremost, this session will be recorded and we will be sending you a copy of the recording after the event. So you don't need to take screenshots if you don't want to. We'll send it all out to you in the next day or so, and you'll have a copy of everything. The other thing is that if you do have any questions, don't hold on to them until the end. Please jump into the Q&A section and type them there. We'll have an opportunity to answer your questions. We have a few pre-submitted questions that we'll address at the end as well. But if you've got anything that you want to talk to us about, please just feel free to put it into the Q&A. A colleague, Nicole, will be in the chat section. She'll be posting all of the links that you see on the screen. So if there's something that you want to click through to, check the chat function and that'll be in there. But if you have questions for us, please make sure you put them in the Q&A and not the chat section because we won't see them if they're in there. And I think that pretty much covers us for housekeeping. I think we've hit about as many people who we're going to have. So we're going to get started. So before we dive into the core content, I just wanted to acknowledge the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we gather on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to the land and cultural beliefs. So as a bit of an overview of what we have in store for you, we're going to do just a general overview of science. So why you choose to study science and a bit about how science is helping drive human progress forward. Then you'll get to hear from Megan. We'll go through the SATAC process and what happens next, the support services that are available to you, and then that's that Q&A option. So yeah, as I said, don't hold on to your questions, pop them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them at the end. So we're starting off with just a quote here, which is science is not just a route to the lab, it's a gateway to the world. And I think that's something that's really, really important for people to think about. There's a very strong misconception that science is only about laboratory work. It's everyone's in white coats. They're either aligned to be very good trying to save the world or very evil trying to destroy the world. There's nothing in between. This is obviously not true. There is a lot of lab work in science, but it is not the core of the job. If you talk to a graduate who's working in science, the amount of time they do lab work can vary from as little as 30% to 70% of the time, but they still have office work to do. They still have site visits and field work that they need to do. It's quite a diverse field, and there's a lot of time outside of the lab. Something that I think really sort of highlights how important science is that it's predicted that in the next 50 years, science is going to drive more human progress than the last 400 years combined. So if you're old like me, you've already seen quite a lot of technological progression. You know, we now have amazing internet where we can host webinars instead of having dial-up internet sing to us. But you know, and that amount of progress in such a short time is going to just keep increasing, and that the level of progress and development will just keep growing. I thought rather than just talk abstractly, I might give you some examples of how that works in a more practical sense. I saw that there were a few people interested in agriculture, so let's jump on that one. Ag is one of the industries that is adopting new technological change at a much faster rate in Australia. A lot of people assume ag is just working the fields, but it is very, very technologically advanced. So there's a lot of work going into developing remote sensing technology. So being able to determine from a livestock perspective if the water troughs are full or if they need to be topped up, and then automating that process so they'll fill themselves up rather than the farmers having to drive all the way out to check the troughs. It's all fully automated process, and they only need to go and have a look if something's wrong. There's also a lot of work in adopting drone technology. So there's a couple of projects going on where people are using drone tech to do flyovers of crops, and then they use comparative image analysis software to determine how well the crops are growing. So rather than having someone walk up and down the fields day in, day out to see how everything's going, it can be done in a matter of hours, and just a couple of minutes flying over and then a little bit of time at the computer. So you can determine where areas are not working properly, which areas might need more nutrients, and which areas are potentially diseased, and in which case you would remove those to avoid spreading the infection. So it's a really great way of just revolutionizing and modernizing an industry that is so core to South Australia's economy. Jumping into food, I assume that we all like food. I can't see you now, but I am assuming you're all nodding. The Thank you, Megan. That's lovely. The world is experiencing a massive growth of population. We're going to be hitting 10 billion people in our lifetimes. And so it is really important that we find a way to feed all of these people. And science is very much the vehicle for us to do that. So it's not just enough to plant more crops, to breed more animals. We need to think about doing things in a smarter and more sustainable way. There's only so much water, there's only so much land available for agricultural production. So it's about finding ways to reduce the amount of waste that is made in the food production process, but also to turn that waste into something useful. Good example, every year in Australia, about 8 million tonnes of potatoes go to waste because they're deemed to be too ugly for retail. So they have a strange shape, a strange marking, they're deformed in some way. They're perfectly edible potatoes, but the supermarkets won't buy them because they don't look acceptable enough for a customer. We actually have some researchers that are working on a project to turn those potatoes into a pre-packaged puree that can be used in a variety of different ways. So it's a long life puree where you can use it to make mashed potatoes, you can use it to make soups, or you can make potato ice cream, which is what they decided to do.
It's actually really good.
Yes, exactly.
It is.
I can't see, like I said, we can't see you, but I'm assuming most of you cringed at that because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with some students, and it does taste really good. It just tastes like a sort of like a McDonald's soft serve, but a bit more filling.
Yeah, it's almost like soy.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
imagine like soy ice, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's it's just it's great for people like me who are lactose intolerant because we can actually eat it. So that's just one area of sciences where you can sort of see how science is really pushing forward the agricultural production industry in order to help meet some of the great challenges that we're facing with ever increasing populations, with climate change, with a need to produce healthier and better food to create a healthier society. That's just one aspect of it. And there's so many other things, like there's the biomedical precinct on North Terrace, where we've got our Health and Medical Sciences building and the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute, and soon the second institute as well. With Lot 14, there's a big focus on space and space startup companies, which is directly across the road from the university as well. So there's a really strong focus in Adelaide around the sciences, and the University of Adelaide is very much at the core of all of that. So that's all well and good, but let's talk about how that helps you specifically. So as I said, there's all these different areas growing. And in fact, 75% of the fastest growing occupations require people to have a background in STEM. So that's maths, that's physics. Areas like data analytics in particular have just grown exponentially in the last few years. Every time you go on a website, you are getting that lovely prompt about cookies. There's a lot of information and data that comes in, but you need people to be able to take that data and turn it into something usable. And so you can see how that sort of STEM background can be really useful in a variety of ways. The top 5 highest paid jobs in Adelaide are in STEM industries. And STEM skills are, general. So that's problem solving, analytical thinking, creative thinking. They're very much in demand in industry and not just in STEM related jobs. A lot of our graduates in areas like physics actually go and work in banking because they have such strong analytical skills. They have a really strong mathematical background, and they can see the patterns and work with the information in front of them to create a better understanding of what's going on in the markets. In terms of why you would choose to study science at the University of Adelaide, we're really nice people, as you will see momentarily when Megan talks and you get a break from my voice. But we are actually really well ranked in sciences, #1 in the state, top 100 in the world. Something that we're incredibly proud of is that we actually have a 5-star student support rating for sciences. We have a very passionate team of people that are really dedicated to making sure that our students get the best possible experience and as much support as they can handle. And that's something that we really, really pride ourselves on. The other 2 points on the other side of the screen were #1 for teaching quality in science in SA and the research point. Those two are actually quite linked together. So our faculty focuses very heavily on research. So all of the people who are teaching our students are required to actually have a research component. They still need to be active researchers. So your professors, your lecturers, they're not just people who are only teaching, they're people who are still actively contributing to their industry and are actively driving progress forward. So that means you're learning from people who are very much at the heart of the change and the growth that we're seeing in sciences. So you're able to learn about the latest and greatest developments and work side by side with these people, which is really, really important to us. And that's part of the reason why our quality of education is so high, is because you've got that really good connection with your researchers. And the best way to sort of talk about how good our education is for me to stop talking and for Megan to talk about it. And I've just realized I jumped the gun. That's next. I just get a bit excited. So on the screen here, we've got a lovely little timeline of where things are at. So we're actually in the second row on the white square saying January the 6th. There's been a lot going on. If you are someone who has not yet received an offer for a degree and you're expecting to get an offer in the January round, or if you received an offer in the December round and are wanting to get a new one, please keep in mind that by the 10th of January, you must have got your application sorted, and then it will lock and you won't be able to make any changes until the 14th. We'll go through that in a little bit more detail shortly. We also then have the option for you to go in and get some enrollment support from the 15th of January when you've got access to your student account. The one I did want to draw your attention to is in February. That's our orientation week. That's coming up quite soon, and that's a really great opportunity for you to get a bit of experience with the campus, find your way around, meet some people, and get some really critical information about your studies. And then the following week on February 28th, you begin at university. So there's a lot going on. We'll go through it in more detail to make sure that you're as prepared as you can be. And now I will stop talking and let Megan take over. Megan.
Thank you, Ari. Hi guys. So my name is Megan. I've actually just finished, I'm not actually a current student anymore, but I have just finished my Bachelor of Science Advanced in Genetics and Ecology. One of the questions I get a lot is, why did I choose that? And I actually didn't start with it. I started in an arts degree and finished my first year and realized I really missed studying biology because I absolutely loved that in high school. And so I changed degrees. I went to the faculty office. I spoke to them about it. Actually, to be honest, I tried to change halfway through my first year in arts. But I went to the faculty office and they said, oh, you're a bit late. The only courses that still have availability are maths and physics. And I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in physics and I hate maths. So I didn't do it. And then I came back at the end of the year and I was like, no, I need to do this because I'm bored with arts and I want to study biology. So I transferred into wildlife conservation biology and took genetics as one of my electives in my second year. And I absolutely loved it. So I went back to the faculty and said, look, I want to major in genetics, but I still love the environmental side. And I ended up changing again. So I ended up in my final degree, the Bachelor of Science Advanced, doing the two majors, which for me worked really well because I had the ecology, which was more broad scale science, and I got to do a lot of field work with it, which I loved. That's been my favorite part of it. But then with the genetics, I still got to do some lab work and look really in depth at the molecular scale of things and how things work. And if you change this, what happens? And it was a good contrast for me, but still avoiding physics as somebody who doesn't like physics. I did end up doing some maths. I did some statistics courses and some research methods courses, which were quite maths heavy, but I hate to say it, I ended up enjoying them, which my high school maths teachers would laugh at now, but it's the truth. Beyond that, while I was at uni, I also joined a lot of clubs. And I mentioned that because I was sort of talking about my favorite things while studying, but being at uni isn't just about studying. It is your priority generally, but joining clubs I think is a really important part of it in terms of meeting people. It's a really good way to broaden your skills, put into practice some skills that you learn in science, which you don't necessarily realize you are learning in science. Like, as Ari mentioned before, that creative and critical thinking, and when a problem comes up, and it happens in labs, like you are doing work and something happens and it goes wrong. And so you need to stop and you need to look at what you've got and reassess and go and try it again. And it's only when you go and do other things that you realize how transferable those skills that you've developed in labs are. So clubs, I highly recommend when you get to uni, join clubs. I was part of, I think, about 7 clubs during my 3-year degree. Science, sports, hobby clubs, whatever you can think of, there will be a club. And if not, you can make a club reasonably easily. And then another thing I really enjoyed was at the end of my second year, I was able to do a summer research scholarship, which I wasn't sure about at first because, as I mentioned, I really love the field component. I love my genetics, but I'm not super keen on being in a lab all the time. But I did this summer research scholarship, and it was sort of the first taste that I had of what professional research and academia could lead to. And it was really good. It was really cool because I got to run pretty much my own lab group as a sub-component of somebody's PhD project, which itself was part of a larger project working on the Coorong. So I was doing this tiny bit, running my own little lab group, but it actually fed into a project which is happening now. It's like real world stuff that I was looking at, which was really cool. Having said that, there are difficult times at uni. And for me, the scariest thing when I started, as I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking similar things, was the idea of going to my first practical. Lectures wasn't such an issue, workshops wasn't such an issue, but going into that lab at university, it doesn't feel the same as a school lab. You walk in and it's a proper science lab now. Like, you're not just playing around anymore, you're using proper materials and everything. And the idea of going in there feeling like I didn't know anything and not knowing any people was terrifying. Like, I'm not a shy person usually, but that scared me. So I went to the first lecture for biology, I think it was, and I sat next to somebody who I didn't know. And I think the first thing I asked them was about their pets. because I figured that meant that we had something to talk about. And then at the end of the lecture, I just asked them, I was like, are you doing this prac? Do you have a prac partner? No, do you want to be prac partners? And it made it so much easier. And we're best friends now. So it's definitely, it can be scary, but once you get over that first step, you'll do well. Another thing I think thought would be worth mentioning was the support that you get at uni. I did see a couple of questions before about that, and there really is heaps of support. Obviously, you have your friends who you'll make at uni and people who you meet through clubs, but you also, in first year especially, can get help from these drop-in sessions where you have lecturers who are teaching you the content, have this extra time put aside, and you can go and talk to them about it, and they'll help you go over a specific part of it that you're maybe not understanding. There's peer assisted ones where you can go and join study groups to do the same thing. There's the Maths Learning Centre, which again, I hated maths, but I did spend a bit of time there. They're really helpful. And the Science Service Hub, as I mentioned, I went there at least 5 times in first semester of my first science degree. And they're so helpful. They help you figure out which electives you can do, which major you want to do. Are you in the right degree for where you want to go? Or should you be looking at something more specific or more general? If you're looking at doing exchanges, when fingers crossed, that's available. They can help you with figuring out when to fit that into your degree. So if you haven't already, if you've got an offer and you're not sure what you want to do, go and speak to them when you get your offers. If you're not sure what you want to do, when you get halfway through your degree, if you're not sure, go and speak to them. They're the nicest group of people. I actually work with them now, so I might be a bit biased, but no, they're really a very nice group of people. But now that I'm finished, and I'm almost finished talking as well, as I said, I finished my degree this year. So I'm working at the science faculty, but I'm actually looking to do further study, probably in the middle of this year, either honours or a master's degree. I'm not sure yet which one. I'll be starting an internship soon with the Jane Goodall Roots and Shoots Foundation, which I'm really excited for. Starts in a few weeks. And I'm looking to do some work with forestry in Mount Gambier, which is not really where I thought I would be going. I didn't really know where I thought I'd be going, to be fair, but I'm hopefully going to go down there, find out a bit more about the genetic side of it, the ecology side of it. It seems to be sort of an area of overlap there with my 2 majors, which I'm very excited for. Yeah, and then finally, I just wanted to mention why you should study science. Obviously, you're all interested in it, but I wanted to reiterate what Ari had mentioned earlier, that you really do get to discover new things. And it sounds cliche, but I think that is one of the most exciting parts about science. You might not know where you want to go, but that's kind of the best part about it, because you can sort of weave a path through and you'll find things along the way. You're not going to enjoy everything you do. I won't lie to you, there are some things that you are going to hate doing, whether it's pipetting multiple times over and over, or it might be the maths like me. But I think in everything that you do in a science degree, you do learn things without realising it, which do transfer into other areas of your life. And yeah, so I hope you guys all enjoy studying science as much as me. But yeah, I might hand back to Ari now, and happy to answer some questions later on. And yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Megan. And you've just touched on so many really, really good points here as well. Just a couple that I really want to reiterate as well is that asking for help is a really important thing at university. And we're actually going to do a bit of a deep dive into some of those support services as well. And really just, you may have noticed already, but we're both very keen on plugging the Science Service Hub because it is really, really important to you. One thing I just wanted to expand upon as well is Megan being involved in so many different clubs and saying hi to someone on her first day. It's a really, really important bit of advice. It's something that almost all of our students that we talk to say the same things, is that just everyone's nervous on your first day and in your first class in your first week. Just say hi to someone, have a chat. There's a very good chance that they're just as nervous and terrified as you, and they really appreciate someone wanting to come and talk to them. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there a little bit. The more you invest in your education, the more you get involved in clubs and extracurricular activities and you talk to other people, the more you will get out of it. You can just do your classes and that's it, but you are missing out on a huge part of the experience of being a university student and really getting that deeper level of value, because that person you're sitting next to may very well end up being on a hiring panel a decade later. And, that could work out in your favor if, who you know rather than what you know sometimes. Just saying, just putting it out there. I will keep us going. So offers. So many of you will have already received an offer in the December round. The next offer round, which is generally the next large one, is going to be on the 14th of January. So SATAC handle the processing of offers, which are your invitation to enroll in a degree with us. So offers are sent through email. If you haven't got an email on the day of the 14th, make sure you check your junk mail. Especially with Gmail, it is very notorious for filing SATAC and university emails to junk, so make sure you check that. But don't panic if it's not there first thing in the morning and one of your friends has an offer. They will be sent progressively throughout the day up until 5 p.m. If you haven't got an offer after 5, you can always log back into your application and check it, and then contact SATAC the next day to see what's going on. But just as a bit of a heads up about that one. Something that is a bit of a misconception is how the offers themselves are rolled out. So there are a lot of people who think the most important thing to do on your application is put the degree with the highest entry score first, or that you'll get to choose, you'll get offered everything and you get to choose. The way that it actually works is you will only ever receive one offer per offer round for the highest preference on your application that you're eligible for. So this is where that 10th of January deadline of changing your preferences really comes into play. You need to list things in order of what you want most to least, and least usually is your backup choice degree. If you meet the requirements for your first preference, you'll get sent an offer and they'll stop looking. If not, they'll go to 2. If you meet the requirements, you get an offer. If not, they'll go down to 3. So they'll work their way down until they can find something that they can offer you. So the order of your preferences is actually quite important. You'll be able to respond to your offer on your SATAC application. And unsurprisingly, if you didn't actually pay for your SATAC application, you won't receive any offers. So if you've got any outstanding fees, please make sure you just double check your account and pay those off. One sort of other final bit of advice I have on that side of things is if you did apply using your high school email address, double check that you still have access to it. I can't count the number of times I've met students who have had their high school email cut off on the 1st of January to roll over space for the new students. So please just double check, because if you don't have access to it, we strongly encourage you to go back into your SATAC account and change to a personal email address so you can get your offers on the 14th. Just because you get an offer either in December or the 14th doesn't mean it has to be your final offer. So when you receive your offer, you can choose to accept it, you can choose to defer it for 12 months, or you can choose to decline it. Those are the 3 core options, but each option also has another, which is I accept, but I wish to be considered for my higher preferences. So this is where if you get an offer in round 1 to something, you can actually indicate that you'd still like to be assessed for another offer in the 2nd round and the 3rd round and so on. If you don't click wish to be considered for higher preferences as one of your responses, then SATAC assumes you're happy and they stop assessing you against other degrees. So let's say we get to the 14th and you get offered your second choice, but you really wanted your first. You can accept that place and indicate that you wish to be considered for your higher preferences. And then in the subsequent round at the end of January, you'll be reassessed against that first preference to see if you're eligible. So it's really important to note that that is an option, but it's something that you have to do and you have to control in order to get that outcome. Just as a bit of reassurance, waiting for another offer round won't negatively impact your enrollments. It might mean if you're pushing sort of the early February, mid-February offer rounds that you will have a bit of a messy timetable when you go and enroll in your courses, but you'll still be able to get into the degree and do your core components of study. So the enrollment process itself is fairly straightforward in terms of the progression, but it can get a little bit complicated once you start getting into the nuances and the minutiae. So we're going to spend a little bit of time about enrollment just to really help clarify that. A lot of the questions that we got ahead of the event were very specific about enrollment. So we just really want to make sure that we can cover this as broadly as possible. Unfortunately, tonight we won't have time to answer your individual questions about your specific circumstances. It's going to have to be a bit more broad brush than that. But let's jump through it. So the first step is to accept your offer. Once you accept your offer, the next day, you should receive an email from the university with your student number and password so that you'll be able to log in and set up your account. There are instructions on how to do that in the email, as well as the website on the screen, which should be in the chat as well. So that comes the next day. Again, please make sure you check your junk mail. If it hasn't turned up after 2 or 3 days, call the uni and we'll get it sent out to you again. If you've done any prior studies, so a certificate for or higher at TAFE, or you started at another university, you can also then go through and apply to receive credit for your prior studies if you want to. The next step is something we'll dive into a little bit more, is that to check your study plan. So we actually build study plans, which are essentially a map of all the things you need to do and we recommend you do in a degree in order to meet the requirements to graduate. So there's a whole slew of different resources and different combinations that we have up on the website. Not all of the stuff on there is required, and we'll dive into some of that terminology in a moment, but it's a really good starting point. And if you look at that and you just go, huh, which is quite normal, that's when you get enrollment advice. That's when you go to the Science Service Hub and they'll help you create your own study plan. They'll help you with your actual enrollments as well and working out your classes and everything. So, and that is what you do during step 5 is you add the courses to your account and you pick the times for your classes as part of that. You will only have a set number of options and choices for classes. So typically lectures are run at set dates and times, and then you will get a set of different options for your practicals and a set of different options for your tutorials or workshops, which are essentially a small group hour-long session where you talk through the content of the lectures. And then you turn up in late February. So that's a very whirlwind overview. Once you get your offer, you start getting a series of emails which contain a lot of information about what you need to do. But it's just good to sort of have a summary overview of what that process looks like. So as I said, study plans are very much an important part of working out what you want to do. There are study plans on our Degree Finder website, which you've probably used. We generally discourage you from using these because they're sort of an indicative study plan. Then they're a way of getting a basic understanding of what you could do in the degree. We actually encourage you to go to the website on the screen, which is again in the chat, as that will give you a PDF that you can download, which will have the full study plan for your degree. And again, this is a starting point. You can then go in and customize that with some degrees. Other degrees, it's not quite so flexible. So rather than just sort of talking about it theoretically, we've got an example study plan here for the Bachelor of Agricultural Science, which the people who are interested in ag will be quite happy about. So the way that university works is that each year is divided in half. So what would normally be term 1 and 2 of school is semester 1, and terms 3 and 4 is semester 2. In the case of agricultural sciences, you can see here that each row along actually already has something written in. So these are courses that you are required to do to meet the requirements of your degree and graduate. If you look straight down to year 3, just for a moment, you'll see that we have something called an elective. So this is a free choice subject where you can go in and pick from a set of options something that complements your area of interest and complements your studies. So I might just get Megan to jump in and talk a little bit about how you can choose your elective subjects, as someone who works in the Science Service Hub and has had to choose electives more recently than me.
Yeah, so with these electives, this degree in particular, it's important to note that it says approved level 3 electives. So as Ari said, there is a list, and for different degrees, that list can vary a bit. You can find them on the university website, or if you're struggling to find it, you can pop into the faculty and we can help you guys out. But if you look at your program rules, is what it's called, there'll be a list at the very bottom. It will list your core courses. So all of those ones up the top of the screen. And then there's a section for the electives. So it's really a matter of having a look at them, seeing what area you're interested in, and checking to see that you meet the prerequisites. So for example, if in this degree, you'll have a much smaller selection of electives because you haven't necessarily done all of the prerequisites, and it does need to fit within the agricultural science field. Whereas when you go over to the Bachelor of Science, which I think I was going to look at next, you'll have a much broader selection of electives, but you still will be restricted by which courses you've done before. So if you've done, for example, chemistry and biology in year 1 and year 2, you're not going to be able to pick a physics elective in year 3 because you just won't have the background knowledge. But again, there's a list for that. And if you're struggling to figure out which electives, the faculty team, know pretty much all of the courses that you can choose from back to front. So yes.
Thanks, Megan. So one thing that I just think is worth highlighting here as well is in year one, you'll see that we have Chemistry 1A or Foundations of Chemistry 1A, and that really touches on the prerequisites that Megan mentioned earlier. So if you've done chemistry in year 12 and gotten a C+ or better, you would go into Chemistry 1A. If you didn't do chemistry in year 12 or you got under that grade threshold, you would go into Foundations of Chemistry 1A, which is an accelerated course, which includes a lot of that content from year 12, whereas 1A normal is built with the understanding that you've done year 12 chemistry and it just picks up where you left off. So it's a really good way of just distinguishing some of these courses. And this is why it's so important to get that personalized advice rather than guessing which one is the right one for you, because you may accidentally enroll in the course that covers a lot of content you've already done, or the one that you are about 12 months behind for because you haven't done that year 12 content. So it's really important to do that. Megan mentioned the Bachelor of Science. So we actually have the Bachelor of Science study plan here, and you'll notice that this is a very, very different study plan. There is only one course that is named in the first year, which is Science or Fiction. Everything else is an approved elective. So the way the Bachelor of Science works is you can try out a few different things in first year. So let's say you're interested in doing biology. You would pick biology, and then that will actually start filling in your study plan for the future. So if you wanted to go through and do biology in semester one and just try it, great. If that's something you're really committed to, that will start taking up a lot of your approved electives in the later years. In your first year of the Bachelor of Science, you have the option to do what we call a broadening elective. So if you want to try a course from another department that's related to your studies, or you just are really interested in trying, you can also put that in. So you might be really interested in trying out a language to see how that goes. You can throw that into your first year of a science degree as well. We had a pre-submitted question about the diploma in languages and adding that to your studies. So you can actually do that once you've received your offer. All you need to do is contact the Faculty of Arts and they can guide you through that process. There's an application form you'll need to fill in. They'll essentially add the diploma in languages to your degree, and that will extend the duration of your studies by 12 months. And basically each semester, they'll just take one course and delay it and replace that with a language, and it will move stuff down, but they'll help you plan all that out so you don't have to worry about it. So the Bachelor of Science itself is quite a broad qualification, and it gives you that flexibility to find what you're interested in. So if you're not really sure which type of science you want to specialize in, it's a great choice. Similarly, if you haven't done the appropriate year 12 subject, there can be a way to make up a lot of those subjects within the Bachelor of Science. And that's the sort of thing that we'd really encourage you to get that personalized advice on. In terms of the Bachelor of Science, I think that's pretty well covered. We actually have 20 different majors to choose from, which we'll show you on the next slide. And we generally encourage you to put this as a backup list on your preferences. So if you haven't received an offer yet, pop this in as your last preference after the degree that you're most interested in, just as your sort of backup path and option. It only has a 65 for the selection rank, so it is and it has no formal prerequisites, so it is one of the easiest qualifications at the university to get into, and it opens so many different doors for you. As I said, 20 different majors, so you can see there's quite a few new ones here as well. And something to really highlight is that if you're interested in studying in a particular area of science, but you don't see a degree that has it in the name, so you might see the Bachelor of Science Biomedical Science or the Bachelor of Science Wildlife Conservation Biology. But if you're interested in paleontology, there's no Bachelor of Science Paleontology. However, you can specialize in paleontology within the Bachelor of Science or the Bachelor of Science Advanced suite of degrees. So it is just really important that you've got that option there. So look that extra layer deeper for something if you can't find it directly on our degree finder website. For interest in time, I really want to get to the Q&A. I can see we've got a bunch of questions already here, which is absolutely fabulous. But if you haven't submitted your question, please jump on and do so. We're nearly at the point where we're ready to answer them. We've just got a little bit about orientation and student support to go, and a little bit on finances as well. So the first thing that you will get to do on campus at university is orientation week, which is running from the week of the 21st of February. And there's a science specific day within that week as well. You'll get plenty of information emailed to you. You may notice that I keep talking about emails. please check your emails. You get so much useful information there. Just set it up on your phone, check it every couple of days. It will be really, really worthwhile. So O Week is essentially an opportunity for you to have a look around the campuses. So North Terrace, Waite, and Roseworthy will have separate open day events depending and for the different areas, which again will be in that information. It's a great opportunity for you to meet new people that will be studying in your degree, and to sort of get a better understanding of university life. All of the clubs will start appearing. They'll set up tents so that you can try and join the clubs. We have sports teams for pretty much everything under the sun: soccer, footy, cricket, tennis, Quidditch, ultimate frisbee, casual and competitive teams. So you can sign up and join a team. There's all sorts of different clubs. Megan was in 7 of them. So, you could join the film club, or you could join the Harry Potter Appreciation Society, or you could join something that's really, really specific. So at Roseworthy, for example, which is the animal and veterinary campus, we actually have the Pig Club, which is the biggest club at the campus where the students work together to breed and raise pigs for shows. So there's a huge range of special interest clubs and societies available at the uni. Megan, do you have any hot tips for O Week, things that are really, really worth doing?
Well, join the club is my number one, but again, I'm a bit biased. Go around to the different stalls, especially the union ones, because they give out a lot of free stuff, and you can find free food. So make the most of that while you can. It's also worth it, I think, jumping on a tour as well. They often have them run by current students. So they will point out where the food discounts are and the best places to find a spot to study, because you'll find once you get into uni, there's some really crowded spots and there's some harder to find spots. Even if it's finding a lab room, if you jump on one of those tours, those students are going to be able to show you where to go for that, which is going to make your first week a lot less stressful. But 100%. Definitely join some clubs as well.
Yeah, and another tour that we do encourage people to do, which is one that I think they overlook, is a library tour. We have the biggest library in the state on the North Terrace campus. There's over 2 million physical books on the campus. So we do strongly encourage you to do a library tour so you can find what you need when you need it. There's nothing worse than being in a rush because you left an assignment to the last minute and you need to find some sources and you have no idea where in the building they are. So we do encourage you to do that. The campus is quite large, so if you are having trouble finding a room or anything in particular, there is a Lost on Campus app that we strongly encourage you to download. It will give you guided steps to the rooms and show you a photo of what the room looks like to help you find that particular place. So it's saved a lot of people from turning up late to classes, so definitely think about that. In terms of your first week, just one handy hint from me as well. Go onto your account and actually check your weekly timetable. A lot of the classes that you've enrolled into, so your tutorials, your practicals, your workshops, they don't actually run in the first week because you haven't done any lecture content and readings to then do the practical components. So the calendar is actually synced week by week. So some classes might only run fortnightly or monthly or every 3 weeks. So it is important to check the specific weeks so you don't awkwardly sit outside of a room waiting for people to turn up who aren't going to come. So it's just a bit of handy advice there. The other thing that's just worth touching on, which was covered in a lot of the pre-submitted questions, is how do I know what to bring to university? So when you enroll in a course and add that to your degree, you'll get access to something called My Uni, which is our learning management system. So that's where all the content of your course is posted online. So there'll be readings, there'll be articles, the lecture recordings will be up there as well. And they will also have a book list of the textbooks that you need to buy, anything in particular that you need to provide and bring for the course. So whether you're a student at Roseworthy and you need to go and buy boots, and anything in particular there, that's all on there. North Terrace students, lab coats, safety glasses, all the things that you need to provide yourself will all be on the course lists. Some of them will obviously cross over because you're doing science, you need a lab coat for all of them. You don't have to buy 4 different lab coats unless you really want to accessorize, but that's up to you. So it's really good to get all that information from there as early as possible so you know that you've got everything you need.
Can I just jump in quickly,
Please.
Ari? Just with the textbooks, obviously if it's a recommended textbook or if your lecturer says you have to have it, then definitely look into getting it. But as a student, they can be really expensive. So definitely don't buy them until you absolutely know you have to. I would highly recommend checking the library to see if they have a copy, seeing if you can find a PDF version, or if they have said that you need to buy the textbook, even see if you can find one that's a few editions older, because in reality, the content doesn't hugely change that much from one edition to the next. Obviously, check with the lecturer if you are going to buy a different edition, but generally speaking, you can get away with an older one or a library copy.
Yeah, and quite often the only thing that would be a bit of a headache with an older edition is that the page references might be out by 1 or 2 pages, but you get around that pretty well. Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Thanks, Megan. So in terms of what comes next, if you have lots of questions, if you're nervous about coming to uni and you just want to talk to someone like Megan, who is a current student or now not a current student, sorry, I don't want to get that wrong again, but has been a student recently or is a current student in the case of our mentors, we actually have an online mentoring platform available. It's set up just like Facebook Messenger. You just send them a message, they'll reply the next time they're online, and you can just have a bit of a chat about what it's like being at uni, anything along the lines of, how do I meet new people, or where's the best coffee on campus, which is a very important question. They're here just to have a chat. It's low stakes. They're not staff. So they can't give you course and enrollment advice. They can tell you a little bit about the courses they've done and give you some tips and pointers if you're also doing those courses, but they can't say, oh, you're doing this degree, you should enroll in X, Y, and Z. So we've got one student per campus. So we've got one from North Terrace, Waite, and Roseworthy. So if you're interested in ag, food, and wine, chat to the Waite student. Animal and vet science, chat to the Roseworthy student. But it's a really good way for you to just meet someone, and that person will actually be on campus next year as well. So you might even get to see them around, and they might show you around a little bit too. So just a very friendly, informal chat service. We really do encourage you to jump on the website and just search for Sciences, and you'll find all the students on there. Okay, the big one, Science Service Hub. We may have mentioned this a few times already. So this is essentially the faculty office, and this is where you go for everything. If you want help with your enrollments, we're more than happy to provide it. We have a team of absolutely wonderful human beings who are ready to help you out. They will sit with you, whether it takes 10 minutes or it takes 2 hours, to help you work through your personal study plan, pick out your electives, and then actually do your enrollment as well. We generally encourage that you book an appointment, which the link to is in the chat, but otherwise you can also just drop in if you want. Go to them. The key is that this will only be provided to you if you ask for it. You have to come and talk to the Science Service Hub. You won't be proactively sent a invitation to do a custom study plan. You need to come and get one. And that's very much a core of what university is about, is that you need to go and ask for help. There's a whole range of services that the Service Hub do, but I think that enrollment component is really going to be most important for you at this point in time. Then if you want to change degrees later, or you want to get a bit of advice because you've been a bit unwell and you don't know how to make up a class, they've got you covered. But the main thing is go and get that enrollment support. There are a lot of other avenues for support. And again, you need to come and ask for help. It's really important that if you're falling behind in your studies, if you're not feeling great about something to do with your studies, or you've got some concerns about your health, go and ask for help straight away. The staff at the university will move mountains to help you, but you need to ask. Your teachers have far more students than your high school teachers. If you're in a class of 30 in school, your teacher can get to know you a lot faster, and they can pick up on those subtle signs of, it looks like something might be bothering them, or something's a little bit off, and they can come and ask you. Your teachers at university can have thousands of students each semester that they're responsible for. It takes them a lot longer to get to know you. They will get to know you, but it takes them a lot longer. So don't wait for them to come to you. Go to them, go to these services, ask for help. It's so important. It's much easier to help get you back on track if you're a few days behind than it is if you wait 6 weeks or wait until just before exams, and it becomes a much harder thing to catch up on. In terms of the support that we have drop-in academic centres for biology, chemistry, physics. We have a maths learning centre, which Megan used quite a bit, and it helped her out quite a lot. We also have a writing centre. They can help with report writing tools. Go to their website, download the referencing guides to make sure that you write your references correctly in your assignments. We have the peer-assisted study sessions. We've got a doctor on campus, a counselling service, the disability service. If you're moving to South Australia, we have an accommodation service. We also have a careers service. So these guys a really, really great service, and we encourage you to see them in your first year. Don't wait until you're about to graduate. They can create a degree-length career plan for you, which will include when you should be looking for additional internship opportunities. They do resume writing workshops. They even host mock job interviews as well. So go and see them as early as you can. They're very busy, so make sure you book. Once you've enrolled, you can get access to all of these services. So you do need to finish your enrollments before you can use these services, but then they're all yours. One thing just to really highlight is finances. So you will have to go through something called the enrollment checklist when you are setting up your account. So you'll need to set in things like your personal information, emergency contacts. They'll also ask for your tax file number as part of something called a request for Commonwealth support, and also the request for HECS help form. So these are online forms that you need to complete if you are a domestic student, which I'm assuming most of you are. Even if you're not planning on paying for your fees through HECS, you still need to go through the process of applying for it. It's a government requirement. As part of that, you do need to provide us with your tax file number. So if you don't have a tax file number, please start applying for one. It takes a while. It can take up to 6 weeks. So we encourage you to do so. If your tax file number arrives after the deadline, that's fine. Just keep your receipt that says you've applied for it and send it to us, and we'll sort it out with the government for you. The very short version summary of what HECS is, essentially your degree costs a set amount of money, and then the government will pay the vast majority directly for you without you having to ever pay it back. And you get charged the gap, which we call the student contribution. So this is a very small portion of the actual charge that costs us to run the degree. If you're an Australian citizen, you then have the option to defer that student contribution to a HECS help loan to the tax office. So if you don't want to pay for your fees up front as a domestic student who's a citizen, you don't have to. You can defer that small contribution to the tax office through a loan program. And then you only have to start repaying it back once you start earning over an income threshold. So once you start earning X amount per year, you'll find that you'll get taxed a little bit higher, and that'll start being your repayments coming out the tax on your paycheck. So it's not like you get the money, then you have to turn around and give it back. It just comes off your paycheck. So, going from a part-time job while you're studying to full-time employment, honestly, you probably won't even notice the difference of that extra tax. Okay, we got there. I know that was a huge amount of information. There is a lot to summarize, but again, if you think back to that map, it happens in a nice logical sequence over a period of a few weeks. So it's not going to be quite as intense as me talking at you for 50 minutes so far. We are now going to dive into the Q&A. So to kick things off, I will address a couple of the pre-submitted questions because I want to make sure that we touch on those. We covered a lot of the content from the pre-submitted questions in the actual talk, and everyone who submitted a question about your specific degree and your specific choices, thank you. Unfortunately, we can't answer those directly today. Please contact the Science Service Hub and then we'll be more than happy to help you out with that. So I'm just going to tab over. Let's have a look. So we have a really good question here about online delivery for the degrees going into this year. So to clarify, if you are able to physically attend the university where you are told to, you do need to come and study in person. You don't get to choose to do your degree online. If you can be here, you need to come in where you're allowed to. Now, we have had lectures run online only in the last 18 months because of COVID. At this stage, we're waiting for a final decision on how that will look for 2022, but it is looking like we will be offering a small capacity of in-person as well as online for lectures. But again, that will likely change and you'll be given plenty of information about that right at the start of studies. Another good question relating to that was how long does it take for the recordings to be uploaded? Well, after a lecture is done in person, it's a fully automated process. Once the lecture time finishes, the video gets automatically uploaded to my uni. So it takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get that up and ready to go. So you don't miss out too much. Login details emailed to you the day after you accept your offer. I think we've covered most of these actually. One that I thought was quite good was can you do part-time employment while you are studying full-time? And I think that's a good one for you, Megan, if you want to dive on that for me.
Yeah. So I did, but it really depends on the degree that you do and how much time you want to spend studying versus working. It's a bit difficult to answer because obviously it does depend on the person. For me, I would be at uni 5 days a week, pretty much 10 till 5-ish, thereabouts. And then I worked Saturday, Sunday. I had a couple of weekends off here and there, but most of the time I was working the full days, Saturday, Sunday. So it's definitely possible, but it really depends on how much you're working and on your timetable. If you can get a half day off during the week from uni, then maybe you can fit a half day of work. But it's going to differ a bit.
100%. And one of the good things about the way we do our enrollments, because it's in semesters, is that your timetable is essentially set for that 6-month period for your studies. So you can talk to your employer about scheduling things around your classes, but it is called full-time study because don't forget that even though you might be on campus for 10 to 15 hours a week, you also then should be spending that much additional time doing your independent study at home. So we generally recommend about 4 to 6 hours per course per week for physical expectation of time on campus, and then again that much for your studies. All right, we're going to delve into the questions in the Q&A. There's quite a few here, so we'll do our best. Is orientation in February also for people who start in second semester? You can attend, but the reality is that the information is very tailored to people who are starting in the first semester. Technically, you are not currently a student until you commence an enrollment period of time. We do a mini open day at the start of semester 2, and we would, O week. Let's try that again. It's more like an O day at the start of semester 2, and we'd encourage you to attend that instead because that will actually be more relevant to what you're doing. Is wildlife conservation biology available to animal behavior students? So you can do some of the courses as your free choice electives in your first year, but the animal behavior degree itself has wildlife components built into it already as you go into years 2 and 3. So this is a really good time just to touch on some of the specialist campus degrees. So if you're looking at doing animal behavior, animal science, or veterinary bioscience, you'll actually still be based at North Terrace during first year and go to Roseworthy 1 day a week for your animal experience. And then from year 2 onwards, you'll be full-time at Roseworthy. Similarly with food and nutrition, agricultural science, and viticulture and enology for Waite, North Terrace for year 1 with 1 day a week at Waite, then full-time at Waite. The only degree that's an exception is veterinary technology, which is full-time at Waite full-time at Roseworthy from day 1. So just keep that in mind. We do have a shuttle bus service that runs between the campuses at set times as well, if you'd rather do that. But Waite and Roseworthy also have free parking. So that was a bit of a convoluted answer that went off on a very long tangent, but essentially there are some courses you can pick up in first year, and then after that, you'll be doing wildlife content, but it will have a very animal behavior focus instead because it's specifically applicable to your degree. But you still need to learn about ecology, ecosystems, and the natural world as part of animal behavior. Course selection, I feel like we have answered that fairly well. So check your study plans, then talk to the Science Service Hub. There's a question here about the difference between the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Science Advanced. As a now almost graduated Bachelor of Science Advanced student, Megan, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, so yeah, they are actually very similar. The key difference is for the Bachelor of Science, you have one core course called Science or Fiction, whereas in the Bachelor of Science Advanced, you have 3 courses, one in each year, called Principles and Practice of Research. And they take you through, the first one is the basics of understanding, reading scientific literature, how to write scientific articles. The second one, in your second year, you go through actually doing research, literature research, putting together a presentation about a topic that you're interested in with a dedicated mentor who's an expert in that field. And then you have PPR3, which was one of my favorite courses in my whole degree, where you actually get to go and do practical either lab work or field work. But it's a mini research project that you do over a full semester, again, with a mentor. And then at the end of it, you produce a proper full A0, like huge scientific poster. You go to a symposium, you present it, and you have other academics come and ask you questions about it and assess what you've done in following scientific research methods. But it's just really cool to have a dedicated mentor for your topic and really get into one specific topic in depth that you're interested in.
Yeah, and that research focus is really that core difference between advanced and standard. And if you don't know which one you would prefer, that's totally fine. So you could start in the Bachelor of Science, and then at the end of year one, transfer into the advanced degree after doing a little bit of research assignments if you find that appeals to you. Or if you start in advanced and you realize that research isn't something that interests you as much, you can then transfer into the science general degree. From Megan's experience, it is very normal for people to transfer degrees at least once. I have
at least
at least. Something that I think is really, really good to highlight is just that starting in a general degree like the Bachelor of Science can help you find what you like, but it can also help you find what you don't like, which is equally as valuable, because then you know to pursue things that don't incorporate that element as much or at all. So don't be afraid to try something, and if it's not working out, that's okay. Come and talk to us and we can help you find something that will suit you more and suit your interests better. We have a question here about My Uni. They can't see any content on the My Uni for the courses they've enrolled into. That is completely normal. So the academics will be going through and refreshing the content and getting it all ready. The university's actually been closed for the last week and a half, so for the Christmas break. So you can usually expect that content to come up sort of 2 to 3 weeks before O Week. Some courses may take a little bit longer depending on the extent of the changes required. Because science is moving so quickly, we frequently refresh the content of each course. And so it might mean that we upload things to My Uni a little bit closer to the start time than is comfortable, but it will all be there before you start your studies. That is the most important thing. It was a really good question. Thank you. When applying for HEX Help, are the forms you complete when enrolling in your course the only forms you need to complete, or are there more? Yep, that's a great question. So we contain them all within that enrollment checklist process. So you complete the forms there. The only additional form for HEX that you might need to complete is if you haven't applied for a tax file number already, you'll need to go ahead and do that. In terms of how HEX works, I noticed there was a couple of questions about the dates and the deadlines. There is a critical dates website, which again, you'll be sent information about as part of your welcome pack, which includes something we call the census date. So this is usually 3 to 4 weeks into your studies, and the census date is essentially your cutoff point. So if you want to drop a course and not be charged for it and not have to pay the cost, you need to drop it before that date. So if you try something and it's just not working after a couple of weeks and you don't want to do it anymore, you have to drop that course within your degree before that date. So it's a nice little way of sort of getting a bit of a taste of what that's like before you fully commit to continuing on with it for the rest of the semester. The other thing is that that's also the cutoff for the financial aspects. So as a student, each semester, you have the option to pay as much or as little of your fees as you want up front if you're a domestic Australian citizen. So if you have magically won the lotto and you want to pay your fees up front for that semester, brilliant, do it. That doesn't mean you have to pay them up front next semester. Each semester you get to choose if you want to pay your fees up front. So when I studied, I put my first semester on HEX and I worked the whole first semester and saved up enough to pay for semester 2 up front. So I graduated a 4-year degree with 2 years of HEX. There's lots of different ways. You can chip in as much or as little as you want each semester. But once you hit that date, whatever balance is left on your account rolls over onto that loan to the tax office. And then you need to talk to them if you want to start paying it off early. Once I've enrolled, can I change my timetable classes right up until the census date? Not by yourself. So usually by the end of week 2, you can no longer change that yourself, and you have to go and see someone like Megan in the Science Service Hub, and they can talk about changing it for you. So the reasoning for this is essentially each course will have an allowance for you missing up to 2 weeks of classes without a medical or compassionate grounds and evidence of that. So once you've missed 2 weeks of content, it's very hard to catch up. So we will only let you change your account for 2 weeks. And then there's another sort of 2 weeks after that where you can still make changes, but you have to get the faculty, the Science Service Hub, to do it for you. So you have to come in and talk to us and we can look at making those changes for you. Where can I go to get more information about applying for exchanges? So there is a study abroad website that you can go to. Then you can submit an expression of interest to do study abroad and exchange. Unfortunately, those are currently not on the table at the moment, and we have no idea when we will be able to offer overseas experiences again. We are working really hard to adjust our existing offerings of interstate even to be able to be run in South Australia. But great question. We've answered that. So Megan, could you just reiterate for us where you can find the list of approved level 1 electives, please?
Yeah. So basically, if you put into Google word for word the degree that you're interested in. So if you are just doing the Bachelor of Science, put Bachelor of Science, Adelaide Uni, and then put calendar at the end. And what that will bring up, it should hopefully be the first result in Google for you. It'll bring up what we call the program rules. And in the top half of that page, you'll have all the information about how many units and how many courses you need to complete, what courses you're allowed to do in it. And at the bottom of that page, there'll be a section where you can click on to get that elective list. So as I said, it does vary degree to degree. So depending on which one you're doing, make sure you put the right name in when you do that Google search and that should come up. If you do have trouble finding it though, just flick us an email to the science faculty and we'll help out.
Yeah, 100%. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Yeah, so approved electives, check the list. And if there's something you really want to do that isn't on that list, you can still talk to the Science Service Hub and we can check whether or not that will mean that you meet the requirements to graduate from your degree. For first year courses in particular, the team has a pretty good working knowledge of what would be allowed and what isn't allowed, because we get a lot of interesting questions with that kind of stuff. How do I know that I've successfully enrolled into all my courses? Is there a place or a website for me to check this information? The easiest way to make sure that you've done it right is to check that study plan, the pre-built one, and then to just double check with the Science Service Hub if it's all set up and all done correctly. That could just be an email, it could be a phone call, or you can pop in and see them in the office. So that's probably the best way to check that one out. A little handy hint for enrollments, speaking from personal experience, if you are a first year student, make sure that you enroll in first year courses and not accidentally enroll yourself in a third year Italian course where no one speaks any English in the course and you just have to sit there and hope that no one asks you a question. And the easiest way to know this is, one, to check the study plans, because it actually has a code for the course. So let's say it might be Physics 1101. The first digit of that numeric code indicates what level the course is. So level 1 is first year. So keep an eye out for that. If you've got Physics 3000, unless you are a super genius or you've applied for a lot of academic credit, we do not encourage you to do that because it will be incredibly challenging and incredibly difficult. We do run checks for things like this, but it's better if you pick the right thing from the outset, because that means you can set yourself up a nice timetable. So look out for the number 1. How do you accept your offer? So that's done through the SATAC website. If it is an offer for your first preference, SATAC automatically accepts it on your behalf because they assume that's what you want the most. If it's for anything below first preference, you need to go in and manually accept, and you'll be able to do that the day after or even the day of your application. Offers being sent out. I'll save that one for a little bit later. That's a really good one. Recommendations for scholarships. So we can't provide personal recommendations for scholarships in terms of what would suit you. We have a really robust scholarships website where you can filter it based on circumstances. So If you have a particular background, whether that's study, cultural, etc., there may be specific options available to you. If you're a high-performing academic student from your school, there may be some options there for you as well. There are options for financial need. There are options for relocating from regional areas to South Australia. There's too many for us to keep a working knowledge of, which is why we have that website. My number one piece of advice is, if you think you're remotely eligible for the scholarship, apply for it. It just costs you a little bit of time, but it might be a bit of extra money in your pocket. There are a lot of scholarships that go unawarded because no one applies for them, or so few people apply for them that they can't really give out the full funding for that type of scholarship. So if you think you're eligible, apply for it. Handy hint, write out your first scholarship application and save it in a Word document. They all generally ask fairly similar questions, so you can just use that one template and then adjust it to suit the specific requirements of the other scholarships. You can get them done a lot faster that way. It might be that you get a couple of $100 or a few $1,000s. Every bit helps. It really encourages you to apply for scholarships. And then I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the questions that we've received. Thank you all for staying for so long. It's great to see so many people have stuck it out with us for this long. Last chance to ask any new questions. Otherwise, I'll wrap up with the last couple that are already here. So is there going to be an O week for Roseworthy or Waite? There isn't a whole week, but there is an orientation event at both campuses. So they're scheduled in at specific times. So you'll be able to go to the campus and get that same orientation experience, see the clubs, the societies, get free stuff, check out the facilities, get a tour, meet some of the people who will be teaching you. But it's in a much more condensed format because it's for a much smaller group of students. So still really, really worth going. You'll kick yourself if you miss it because you will get very lost and you miss out on free food, which is obviously the most important thing. You can tell it's getting close to dinner time. I have another question here, which I think will be our second to last. So actually, we'll save that. One question here is, how does the enrollment process work for people who start in semester 2? So there's two different ways of looking at this. So if you receive an offer for semester 2 entry, you'll get sent your login details closer to the start of semester 2, and you probably won't get that offer for a few months anyway. If you receive an offer for semester 1 entry into the degree and you only want to start studying in semester 2, that's okay. You don't have to change anything on SATAC. But what you need to do is only enroll in courses for semester 2 and leave semester 1 empty. Your student account will still remain active. You will still have your places in all of those courses, but you've just got to make sure that you only enroll in semester 2, because the last thing you want to do is enroll in semester 1 and get charged for courses that you didn't realize you were enrolled in. And that's something that's, just to expand on a little bit further, is we do encourage students to do their full year's worth of enrollments. So enroll in both semester 1 and semester 2 straight away. That means you can get your full year student card, because we can only give you a student card for the time that you're enrolled. So get your full year in. You can always change your semester 2 enrollments later, but it also means that you get to set up a good timetable, which will hopefully work with your casual employment opportunities as well. Oh, another sneaky one here. Can you defer the veterinary bioscience degree? So with all degrees offered by the Faculty of Sciences, you can, if you're a domestic student, you can defer for 1 year at a time. And then if we will get in contact with you towards the end of the year, so say you're starting this year and you defer to 2023, the university reaches out to you in late 22 and we'll see if you want to start or if you want to defer for an additional year. We'll then either process your activation of your account or defer you for an additional 12 months. You can only defer for up to 2 years though. So you just need to keep that in mind. You can't defer in perpetuity. You've got to do it within that first 2 years. Otherwise, you'll need to go through and submit a new application. For international students, there is a little bit different. So there's actually information about whether or not you are allowed to defer and how long you are allowed to defer for on your offer letter itself. So that can vary based on different circumstances. So I won't cover that just because that's quite a personally tailored thing. Follow up on the semester 2 entry. Does that mean you do not select your courses until later on? So it depends again. So if you got a semester 1 offer and only want to start in semester 2, you can select your courses as soon as you get your offer. If you've on SATAC only put a mid-year preference for a degree, you won't get your offer until closer to the start of mid-year. And at that point, you will select your courses. There's still plenty of places available in timetables and everything there. Where do I find the orientation day date for Roseworthy? So that will actually all be emailed out to you. So if you're enrolled into a Roseworthy degree, you get sent an invitation directly to the orientation day for that. I don't know those off the top of my head, but you will get plenty of emails about all of the different orientation events, including the ones that are specific to Waite and Roseworthy, a little bit closer to the time. But it will still be in that February week. So all of the orientations will still happen in that 1 week. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, last question. I'm going to have to stop us here because we are going slightly over time, but I think it's a fun one. And I'm going to throw it to Megan. So get ready. We've sort of covered generally what you need to bring to your first practicals because it's all covered in my uni, but there was a follow-up part to this is, what are one of your practical horror stories, if you have any?
Oh, none of mine went terribly, terribly wrong. I do remember one of my first chemistry pracs. We were doing titrations and they said, I think it's that you put the base in the burette and you drop it into the acid at the bottom. And I'd been telling people this, like I'd been telling my friends this, I was like, make sure you do it the right way. Because I remember stuffing that up at school all the time. And it was halfway through the prac and I realized everybody else had done it right. And after telling my friend and being like, no, that's the right way you do it, I'd done it completely wrong. So I was halfway through the prac, I'd done 3 titrations, got my results, and they were like, this isn't right. And so I had to do that all again. I had time. The only other one, which was horrible, was doing dissections in biology. And just, it wasn't a horror story, but if you're squeamish, it's not a fun prac. I was fine, but it was a little bit amusing watching some of the people who were squeamish trying to do dissections on toads and things. But yeah, generally speaking, there's enough time if a prac goes wrong that you can patch it up enough.
Brilliant. Thanks, Megan. Yeah. Certainly, if you're looking at doing stuff in the biological and animal sciences, you will still need to do things like dissections. So please be prepared for that. It is an important part of that process. So we are going to wrap things up here. I've just got a series of links on the screen for you here, just for really useful resources. So the Sciences website is your sort of portal for the enrollment component, the study plans, and we really encourage you to have a good look through there. It's also got some good information about the different study areas within the faculty as well. Jump onto the pre-arrival mentoring link and have a chat with one of our mentors. It doesn't have to be anything too in-depth. If you just want to ask some questions and just have a chat with someone or just get some sort of reassurance that you're on the right track, please feel free to talk to them. The scholarships website, and then the option to book an appointment with one of our advisors in the Science Service Hub. It's generally easier if you do book an appointment, but walk-ins are accepted. Just with everything going on with COVID, my personal recommendation would be to book an appointment ahead of time, just to make sure that we have enough people on campus to see you. And we do offer appointments remotely as well. So if you'd rather not come on campus at the moment, we've got the option to either have a phone call or a Zoom with a staff member as well. And then we've also got some contact details for the uni for any other questions that you have. So as I said at the beginning, the recording of today's session will be sent out to you in sort of the next day or so. So you'll have all of that there. And I think that will pretty much cover us. There's a lot of information. Don't be afraid to go back and rewatch this if you can stand listening to me anymore. But please feel free to get in contact with the uni and ask for help. If you haven't received an offer yet, we wish you all the best with the offer round on the 14th. The uni will be open extended hours on the 14th. If you do have any questions, use the phone number on the screen, or jump onto the online chat option available as well, and they can help you answer any of those particular questions. With all of that said, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming along. We really, really appreciate you being here. And we're so glad that you're thinking about studying at the University of Adelaide. It means a lot to us, and we're really looking forward to seeing you on campus this year. I also want to say a very big thank you for Megan taking time out of her holidays to come and talk with you all. It's absolutely invaluable that we get to hear from current students, just finished
okay.
students.
I'll let it go.
You'll always be a student in my heart. So thank you so much for your time, Megan. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Always. And with all of that, we will wish you all a happy evening. Good luck with everything. And please don't be afraid to get in touch. Thank you very much. See you later.